Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, please listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of your social media platforms, or should I say on all of our social media platforms. Again, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else that the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is on the air. Also, make sure that you guys check us out on our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, where you will find not only the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is there, but you will also find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast there as well. So make sure you guys go, again, check us out at our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, in order for you guys to be able to watch the channel and watch the platform. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Dr. PJ. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being on the podcast, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So we're going to kick it right off. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners and tell us a little bit of who you are and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I am just really honored to be here with you and your guests. And so, like you said, I am Dr. PJ. I'm an author. This is of two books. One is called Pursuing Legacy. And this one that just came out is called It's Me, Not You, How I Survived Toxic Work Environments. And so outside of being an author, I tell people my personal mission is to help people become better versions of themselves. So everything I do is about that. So I am a small business advocate, as well as now I've been introduced into a new space of digital literacy. So now I'm an advocate for the other DEI, right? So DE&I now, so digital equity and inclusion. But everything that I do is about helping people become better. And I'm doing this with my book right now, and also with some online classes that I have to help people to start, build, and grow and maintain their legacy.
Okay, okay, I like it. I like it, and we definitely going to jump into all of that. But I want to ask you one quick question about something that I know that I want to ask you about. You were given a award that has to do with, I think, minorities in construction. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I won Government Advocate of the Year for minorities in construction, and it was about all the work that I've done with small businesses over the last few years and helping them to not only start their business, grow their business, get certified, as well as be on government contracts. And so that award came from the Minority Development Center, and they awarded me that. And I was so excited because sometimes when you are so involved in your work and you love what you do, you really don't expect the awards. And so when
Mhm.
you are seen, you feel like,
Yeah.
wow, you guys been noticing that I was actually out here working. That just is like the icing on the cake. So I'm really happy to have received that award. And it's just a great honor because I do love working with small businesses. And that was just a culmination of everything that I do in my passion.
Yes, yes, I love it, and I wanted to mention it because, you worked with minorities in construction, and definitely being minority myself, and also in construction as a bricklayer now, 22 years as a union bricklayer. I know the I have a passion for it, right? And I have a passion for the opportunities that it brings, the next generation with our youth. And so I'm definitely instrumental in going to schools and talking to, our students about becoming construction workers and joining the, union workers, joining the unions, and also learning a trade and a skilled trade. And so I was honored that you have been honored for doing that work also. And so I definitely wanted to make mention of it. But that being said, with your mission being to help people to become their better version of themselves was definitely something that I'm also on that journey, but definitely also being a part of that journey, which is the whole premise of this podcast. Let's go back a little bit in your story and what were how were you before, and what was that instrumental incident that happened that made you say, you know what, now I'm going to spend my life, pulling out the best of other people?
Honestly, it's just, when you have, and for me, my birthday is like everything, right? So that's the holiday that I celebrate. I think it's an international holiday. If you don't get the day off for that, you need to check with your company to make sure that happens. But so I had reached a milestone birthday, and I was just like, you know what? I pretty much have everything that I want, but what really am I doing that gives back to other people? And so it's more of like when you just hit this, and people may arrive at it at different times in lives, different points in their life, where you're just like, you really understand that your life is really not your own. It's about what are you contributing to the society to help the next generation, because you want to leave something when you're gone. So when you're gone, how has the world benefit from you being here? And so that's pretty much, I was just working, just doing, having fun, and then I just hit that milestone like, wait a minute, like I got to do something that actually means something and not just do things because it just gives me fulfillment.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And yeah, like you said, you do kind of reach that point at different times in your life, and with me, I started early. Just caring about people, and I guess it's probably a lot of it has to do with my upbringing, being raised in the church, and the community service that at that time we were made to do, right? Growing up in the church, starting really early, like you didn't have a choice. You were going to the senior homes, and you were going to the rehabilitation centers,
Yeah.
and we
Were
would
you
have church
Pentecostal?
and bring gifts. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that was just a part of it. You know what I mean? Like you didn't
Right.
have a choice. This is what you do. But I'm definitely grateful for it because of the heart that it gave me for people. And then, having the example of my mom and my grandmother, who definitely had hearts for people, also just something that I grew up with. But getting to that space where, like you said, where you really start to reflect on your own life, and it was be like, what am I leaving behind? What legacy am I leaving behind? Because we can get as much for ourselves,
Hmm.
accumulated many awards, accumulate, many things and money and all those things. But when we're gone, who's going to remember us? Nobody's going to remember us for those things, but they're
Yeah.
going to remember the mark that we leave in the real. So definitely agree with you on that, 100%. And so when we're talking about working with people to become the version of their best selves, what are some of the things that we probably should even be looking for when it comes to behaviors and traits personally, that we can look at and be like, what, there's probably some things about me that I need to change? Because I think that sometimes we become so comfortable with ourselves and who we
Hmm.
are, that even when we look in that mirror, we don't even recognize that. Like, what? There's probably a couple of tweaks that I can make, to
Right.
become my better self.
Yeah, and it's really about, and for me, I've always been a person who was self reflective. So after
Mhm.
every conversation, after everything, I would sit there and like, did I really handle that the best way? How could that be perceived? Because sometimes we get so involved in our way of thinking and our perception, and we think that, okay, that's absolute, but nothing is absolute. Depending on how people, where they're positioned, what experiences they've been through, what you say could actually hurt them even though you didn't mean to. And so for me, it's just becoming self-aware so that I can be aware of my actions and how my actions affect everyone else. So I always tell people, when you are trying to make sure that you're not offending anybody, one, you have to know exactly who you are. And that is pretty much the foundation for anything, any type of success, is knowing exactly who you are. I know who I am, and I know who I'm not. So I'm never going to try to be something that I'm not. Somebody may do something well and I admire that about them, but if that's not me, I don't have to strive to try to do something just like they do it. But if I'm self aware and I know who I am, I know what value that I bring to any situation. And you just want to capitalize on your value. And when you know your value, that's how you start to brand yourself. I think everybody, no matter if you don't even want to be an entrepreneur, if you just want to do, to work for somebody else, you should still have your own personal brand. And when you have that brand, you know your mission. And so you need to evaluate constantly, like, okay, my mission is, if I would take my mission, for example, and that's to help people become better versions of themselves, every day I'm like, did I do that? If there's a big situation that happened, wait a minute, was I operating in my mission today or did I get sidetracked? And so I think that's a tip that can help people to really hone in on that, is just knowing who you are, knowing your value, and then holding yourself accountable in situations like, was that part of my mission? Was that part of my brand, or did I go off today? And if I went off from my brand, that's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. So let's make sure that how I say, how I show up, how I act is aligned up with that brand, with that mission.
I love it. I love it. And I want to go back to one of the things that you said, which is knowing who you are, right? Because I think that is like so important to all of us to get to the place where we know who we are, like really begin to know ourselves. So I'm a big component of personal development and really getting to know yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, and all of that. And it definitely played a part in my life because when I was younger, I had. I would just say self-esteem issues, right? I was really quiet. I had very bad sight. And when at one time we couldn't afford glasses, and then when I was able to get glasses, they were so thick that I didn't want glasses. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just not be able to see, right? But I didn't know who I was, because I kind of was ashamed, should I say, of my own abilities, and so I became a follower. I kind of was following the crowd early, and because of that, I had some failures in school. I wasn't a class clown, but I was like the best friend of the class clown, which was to me was
You
even
was always
worse, right?
laughing.
Yeah, yeah. So and as an adult, when I think about that, to me that's even worse than being the class clown, right? Because the class clown is operating in his identity, right? Operating in his personality and being live and open, and just being a follower, which I was at that time, you know, kind of shrinking behind, hiding behind him, but yet at the same time finding my worth in someone else's, someone else. Um, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's even worse than being a class clown is being a follower, and so definitely had to grow out of that phase. Took some failures and some losses before I was, that part of me was awakened and saying, okay, who am I? Let me step into my greatness, and definitely became an honor roll student and all of those things, which was all inside of me all the time, but I wasn't aware of it. And so I think, getting to the point where we begin to know ourselves, especially as adults, because I think sometimes we get connected to who we were as a child, our teenage years, and then you get those people that still living in the glory days and talking about, who they were in high school, and really don't take the time to get to know themselves as who they are now as adults. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I think that's so important for us to get to the point where we're able to do that. And I think a lot of that comes with really taking the time to reflect on who we are, who we have become, and how far we've come from the version of ourselves that we used to be. And so when we're talking about uh, that self-reflection and really taking the time to think back on who you are and how far you came, what would be some of the ideas and some of the things that you maybe kind of work people through, even to be able to view themselves, to see themselves clearly, and then being able to kind of work through that self-reflection of who they are and who they've become.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of touch on what you said too, I remember I was at an event and I was there with my friend, and she had her boyfriend at the time there, and so we were talking, and he says to me, "I think I'm gonna have you help me because I'm 56 and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up." And that kind of hit me like, you're 56 and you don't know who you are, but there's a lot of people in that state. And so, one, of course, what I tell people and how I kind of found out who I was, for one little funny story. I remember growing up, I was terrible at science. I was good at everything else, but science, like, just count me out each and every time, because I would just study all the time. For even when I was in elementary, I would study, and the best I could get was like a C, and a B if the teacher was very lenient. And so I just realized, you know what, I'm spending all this time trying to get an A in science, and I just can't do it no matter how much time I study. So I just realized then and there, like, I'm just not good at science. So if I can just get a B, or if I can just get a C, then that's good. But if I'm good at everything else, let me put all my time into those things that I'm good at. And what I'm not good at, just accept that that's just not me, right?
Mhm.
And so I always tell people, in coming into finding who you are, focus on what you do well. What is naturally you? And sometimes the people around you can tell you. A lot of times we don't see things, but people around us see it. I remember people telling me, "Oh yeah, you should go into this type of business." And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't think that I'm smart enough. But when you can constantly get to the point you're like, I gotta do something with my life, start thinking about, what have people said to you? What have people complimented you on? What things do you do naturally that are just, you just do it naturally well? And so come from that, like, okay, write it on a list. Even go to the people that you trust and say, "Hey, how would you describe me? What would you say what are my strengths? What would you say are my weaknesses?" And then really reflect on that. If they tell you, you're a great listener, then start thinking about that every time you interact with somebody. Think about, why do people say that you're a great listener? And so just take it step by step by really just breaking down, like, okay, what am I good at? Asking other people, hey, tell me something about myself. How would you describe me to other people? And I think once you do that, you begin to see who you are. And then you can really hone in on what makes you you. And then just concentrate on developing those natural skill sets that you have. And I think that's what gets you to self awareness. That's what helps you to build up that confidence. Because at the end of the day, we all have our own race. Nobody can come in and take our race from us. Our race is for us to give up. So if you just focus on who you are and run your race, can't nobody be you better than you. So just really
Right.
focus on that.
Yeah, I want to touch on two things that you said. One of them is sometimes that other people can see you or the best of you more than you can, right? And so I remember again growing up in church as a young adult, becoming an associate minister, and during the time that I was associate minister, I was approached several times to kind of leave the church that I was at and become, ministerial support um, at other churches by other ministers and other pastors. And I remember talking to one of my friends who was a social who was an associate minister also. And I remember telling him, like, man, I've been approached by, several people, and, I don't really know why they're asking me, because like maybe this other person is more qualified, or this and that. And that was exactly what he said to me, like, you don't see you as other people see you. And he was like, there are qualities that you have or whatever that other people can see in you, that why they're asking you to be in leadership, even though you've never, what I'm saying, like raise your hand to do it, or anything like that. And so again, like you said, being able to, ask others what they see in you, and the things that you may be blind to, because to you it's just normal. Being helping people is just normal. Having a heart for people is just normal. And so to me, that wouldn't come out, wouldn't stand out as something, outside of normal, or that's really great. But other people who are looking at you, or myself, or whoever that person is, and being able to see, no, this person cares a little bit more than the average person, this person gives a little bit more than the average person, and because of that, they're able to, to see that in you, and want you to even step into those spaces, to give that part of you that you just think is normal, but to them is much more value in it. And one of the other things that you said is really focusing on what you do well, right? And you mentioned about you not being good in science, and getting to the point that you're just like, okay, I'm not good at science, right? And there's something that I teach when I speak at schools, and speaking on, your strengths and weaknesses. And I always tell students, walk in your weakness, right? And so what I mean by that is, just like you said, there are some things that you're just not going to be good at, right? And it's okay to accept that and to walk in that, because when you walk in your weakness, you allow others to walk in their strengths, because there is somebody that's great at science. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so when you say, look, this is not my strong suit, it allows them to stand up in the area where they may be strong. Because on the other hand, it may be something that you're very good. Let's say you're very good at math, they may not be that good at math. So if they allow you to stand up and be strong in the area of math, and they're strong in the area of science, and both of you come together, you're still able to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, for the class or whatever. But you don't have to try to be something that you're not. You really can just
Exactly.
accept that I'm just not the best at that. Let me get this person who is great
Right.
at it. Allow them to operate in their greatness.
Yeah. And then also, just to piggyback off of that, one thing that I think we need to do as a people in general is, when we recognize somebody has a great skill, say that, tell them, because we never know how that's going to change somebody. But we just need to be, more liberal with our compliments of people, and just saying, you know what, I like how you handled that today. You know what? I just really love your passion for whatever. You know what? I think you're excellent at math, because that can go a long way. So I think it's one, asking people, what do you think about me? But I think that us as general, we need to be more open with our compliments to let people know. So we never know who we are inspiring just by that word, just by that smile, just to say, you know what, I like how you handled that today. You know what, I like how you wearing that shirt today. That's cool. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really big. And since we were talking about school, when you said that, it brought just some memories to my mind that even when I'm talking to in spaces of education and talking to teachers, one of the things that I always not always, but I shared the story. There were three pivotal teachers in my life from my high school years that I still talk about to this day because of the different parts that they played. And one of them, since we mentioned math, I think it was my sophomore year, and I remember receiving a post a postcard. It was a postcard from the school, but it was to my parents. And when they got it, it was a note from my teacher that she had wrote a postcard and sent it to my parents. And it talked about how out of all of her students for that year, I think I got the highest. It was like one of our big math tests or assignments or something that we had to do, and I got the highest, like out of the whole, like all of her classes that year. And she took out the time to acknowledge that and put it in writing and send it to my house to my parents. And I graduated from high school in 1994 to be exact. I still have that postcard to this day, right?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so it's just that acknowledgement
Mhm.
that even in that space, which I don't even know if she, even thought about it after doing it or anything like that, but it was such a pivotal moment for me. And again, being able to take that and add it to my self-esteem and who I was as a student at that time, and even now, even as a person, you know, that was one of the most pivotal things at that time as a teenager, that I'm able to look at and be like, oh, okay, I am smart. I do have
Yeah.
value. Like I do stand out in the midst of all these students,
Right.
and me not feeling like, I'm probably nothing special. There, my teacher took out the time to acknowledge,
Mhm.
my efforts, acknowledge the work that I did. And again, that definitely was a turning point in my life, as well as some other things. But that acknowledgement, really did something for me, and I really appreciated that. And so even as adults, I think we can acknowledge our efforts and the efforts of others even more, because we never know what a person is going through. And sometimes that little acknowledgement, like you said, that I like your shirt today, what I mean, could really change someone's output and how they're feeling and thinking even that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I just practice that. And it's funny because I work downtown, and every downtown has the characteristics, right? And so
Mhm.
sometimes you see people who may be at their lowest point in life at that time. And so I'm just going, and sometimes they don't want to make eye contact, and I make sure I say eye contact, like, "Hey, are you having a good day today?" And just start that conversation, and you can see like their body language changes, because we have to realize we're all in this thing together, and you never know what that person might have been planning on doing, and you had that opportunity to change that. So just
Yeah.
taking advantage of those opportunities. But I like how your teacher did that, because look how you're still talking about it. That affects you.
Yeah.
Anytime you're like, if I'm feeling not so much myself, let me go find that postcard she sent
Right.
to my parents, and let me read that, because she saw it long ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even one of the things that you just said just made me think about something when we're even encountering people at the space where they are at the moment, because my grandmother used to always say, someone else's today can be your tomorrow. Right.
Mm,
And I remember watching a podcast recently, and a gentleman was telling the story of one of those things that one of his mentors told him about making good decisions. And one of the things that he said was, with as successful as he was, and as much money as he was, and as accomplished as he was like, we're only one decision away from losing everything. And so it's like you always have to be mindful of
yep.
everything that you do, because you can make one bad decision and lose everything.
Are we
And
not
so
saying that
definitely,
today?
uh,
Because a lot of
yes,
people, we're seeing that happen.
every day, every day, and yeah, yeah, definitely in this climate that we're in right now, we're seeing that being played out, and the problem, one of the problems is it's not new, right? It's
Right.
not a new thing. So many times you've seen it, but I think when we start stepping into our own ego and falling for our own imaginations of who we are, and not start to being detached from the reality of who we are, and we are just people. Sooner or later, it catches up with us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it bites us, and sometimes it bites hard.
Sometimes it buys hard. And I remember just growing up, and some people would say, the same people you meet on your way up, will be the same people
Mhm.
you meet on your way down. So just be careful how you treat people. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So one of the things that I want to talk about real quickly, even as we're talking to people about recognizing their traits, right, recognizing their behaviors and how that affects who they are, right, and also recognizing who they were and the person that they've become, right. When we talked about self-reflection, one of the things that I want to ask you about is, even in your work of helping people kind of on that journey and kind of learning, strategies that kind of help them, into that change, help them make those changes, those needed changes. What are some of the steps that you might even give us, maybe one or two steps on for those of us that are on that journey of, okay, I've recognized, that I may have some positive traits and some negative traits that I need to, tweak a little bit, and I've come to terms with who I am as far as, doing this self-reflective work of who I am at this time. But knowing that now I have these changes that I need to make, what would probably be, where would we start, and then maybe like one or two steps, to get us headed in that right direction.
yes. So what I suggest, and what I kind of talk about in my book, It's Me, Not You. What it's about is holding yourself accountable for your actions and what you do. You can't control what other people do. You can't control what other people say, but you can control how you react. Even if the behavior is negative towards you, you necessarily don't have to react in that same type of manner, but take
Mhm.
control of your actions. And remember, it's your race to go through. So you got to be accountable for what you do. And I always give the analogy of when two people are arguing, and you may be arguing with somebody who you just say, this person is foolish. But on the outside, can anybody tell who's the fool?
Mhm.
If both of you are
Yeah.
arguing, they can't. So you have to be able to take accountability for your actions. So that's the one step. Hold yourself accountable to your value. We talked about how to get to your value, but hold yourself accountable and believe in you, right? Believe in yourself, know you, and that goes into knowing your worth. And that's going to help you decide how you react and how you move in a lot of things. Because if that space that you're in, and if there's a whole bunch of energies or people or behavior that's around you, and you're like, you know what, if that's not you, you should feel very uncomfortable in that
Mhm.
situation. And you can say, you know what, this is not my scene, I'm gonna exit out. If you're at a work scene and some things are going down, you say, hey guys, I got to get back to some other work. It was nice being here. However you can gracefully exit out, do that, because what you don't want is for to be have yourself around toxicity, and then it begins to seep into you, right? And then you begin to be the toxic and display the toxic
Mhm.
behavior. One thing that you hit on too is that you said we know what we're good at, what we're bad at, but I talk about this as well, is every day, every person, we're fighting. There's a good and an evil. We're all fighting that every
Mhm.
day in different capacities. So you got to remember to make sure that that good wins at the end of the day. And so what I'm a firm believer is that people can change. Ultimately, you are who you are, and you can do the research on that, and it'll tell you pretty much people are who they start out being. But what the different characteristics that you have as you go through experiences, that percentage may change. What I mean by that is, just say, and I'll tell you, my pet peeves are people who are inconsiderate. Like, that just drives me crazy. And so I remember I had a friend who their inconsiderate level was maybe at 10% towards other people. And then as time grew, the different experiences that they went through, that inconsiderate became like 50% when another quality that was I considered to be good maybe took a lesser percentage. So it's just about taking that balance and knowing, okay, this is my good, this is my evil, this is what I'm battling with every day. How do I make sure that the good part, the good percentages rise up every day in those situations and how I'm handling myself? So that's another way. And then also a real thing that we need to do is stop suffering in silos. When we're going through stuff, share your story. You can't share your story to everybody. I'm not saying, find somebody, let me tell you about my story. I had a bad day today. No, but you have people who you can trust, and you can feel when people are really genuine about who you are, and just sharing that story, because you don't want to hold that in and let that eat you up inside, but you want to get that out, because you never know who's listening, and they can say, you know what? Have you thought about doing this? They might have some advice for you, or even with you just sharing that story, it releases it from you. And then it allows you to let go of some of that bitterness, let go of some of that revenge that might be settling there, so that when you are taking accountability for what you're doing, that will help you, because now you're taking out some of that negativity that you may have experienced in that story that you're keeping to yourself, and you're releasing that so that you can be a better person.
I love it. I love it. And you were talking about your book, and you talked about, that accountability, and realizing that, you can't control other people. You can only control yourself and how you act or react. And that's definitely something I talk about, exactly those words. So I'm definitely going to have to get my copy of your book. Um, and to the audience, we definitely will make sure that we put the links to the book in the descriptions. So you definitely want to make sure you're checking out the descriptions, because there's always great information in our description. So make sure you check that out. So we did talk a little bit about that book, the It's Me Not You, but tell us a little bit about your other book.
Yes. So pursuing legacy was actually the topic I did on my dissertation. And so what I did is I interviewed families. So going back to when you asked me what was that pivotal point when I was just like, I have pretty much everything I want. What am I going to do to have something outlive myself? And so that stuck with me. So when I went into graduate school, I I've always been fascinated with businesses and how that operates. And so I chose that as my topic to really look at when we have family environments, how much that plays a role in our decisions. And so for me growing up, I always had a supportive environment. However, the people that I grew up around with were not college graduates. They were people who worked hard and were disrespected, because of the color of their skin or because they were a woman. And so for me, being around that, I always felt that support, and that helped me to gain a work ethic. But what it also showed me is that, you know what? I'm never going to enter into any jobs like that, because I'm not going to work hard for somebody just for them to disrespect me. Because I know how that made me feel watching my loved ones feel that. And so my first book, Pursuing Legacy, talks about that. And so it takes you into the stories of people who have had generational businesses or careers. So some of them have been in business for like 4 generations. So that equates to over 100 years. So what made them want to continue to follow in those same footsteps as, their grandmother or their father? But also, how does that business continue to go on? And also, back it up from the very beginning, what made the original person go into that business? And the irony that I found is that what made people go into an actual business, one is that they wanted to leave a legacy for their family or for other generations or other group of people, because of a particular incident, a pivotal point of struggle or of a disaster. It's why they went into that. And so that's what the book talks about, is how do people get to the point where they're like, you know what? I need to start living for other people and making sure that what I do contributes to make society better, make it better for future generations coming after me? And then also, how do you maintain that? How do you incorporate the new generations to follow into that legacy so that it goes and really comes in to help everyone? And so it's all about community and just really helping people be better and just taking your gifts and your talents and sharing it with others. And so that book concentrates on that to help people to really hone into their legacy, think about the family environments and behaviors and patterns that they may be following, whether good or bad, and how do we turn those into good and cultivate those for the next generation.
I love it. I love it. Definitely going to give my copy of both books, and
So
to
thank
my listeners, your the links to those books definitely we will have in the description, so you guys can get your copies as well. I think both of those books hit right on point. You know, right on point. Definitely, they definitely resonate with me, so I'm sure that they resonate with my audience as well. Dr. PJ, I want to say thank you so very much for coming on, for sharing your story, sharing your expertise. I want you to have the last word, and I want you to leave us with a word of advice, inspiration, however you feel, and also with your social media handles and things of that nature, where we can find you and to be able to work with you and things of that nature. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure you guys are also checking me out at my website, dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, where you can find out more about me and the things that I have going on, and also book me to come out and to speak or a workshop at your school or organization. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, because my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So make sure that you guys are checking us out there. Also, make sure you guys go to ebooksbyejames.com. You go there and find out, you can find several ebooks that I have written that is available for you guys. Again, we have the Core Four, which is the core four values that every daughter should get from her father. That's one ebook from the ebook from Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook for young boys. And also, there's an ebook that I'm very proud of called "Forgiving Me: The Four Steps to Self Forgiveness." So you guys can go there. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com in order to get one of those ebooks. Also, make sure you guys go to our deal to heal tees.com website, which is where we have our inspirational teas. Again, that's deal, the number two, healteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Not only do we have our inspirational t-shirts there, but we also have our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it, which is one with the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast logo, as well as the Girl Dad Discussions podcast logo is on there as well. Last but not least, the last couple of years, I've been able to be a part of a organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month addressing forgiveness, what it means to forgive, who forgiveness is for, forgiveness of ourselves, forgiveness of the world, just everything regarding forgiveness. You guys can sign up for the forgiveness workshop by going to forgivenessmission.com, or you can go to Eventbrite and look up forgiveness workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. So again, anytime that you're listening to this podcast or you're hearing this right now, either one just ended or one is coming up. So again, that's free, our free virtual workshop addressing everything surrounding forgiveness. Again, it's been a blessing for me to be a part of the Forgiveness Mission. And, you know, the workshops are absolutely free, but the information that we share is priceless. So you guys want to make sure you go to forgivenessmission.com in order to sign up for our free virtual workshops, which we do every other month. So, Dr. PJ, again, let me say thank you once again for coming on to the podcast and sharing your expertise. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
All right. Well, first of all, or second of all, thank you for having me and allowing me to be on the platform to share my expertise is and just really what I love doing to everybody. And I just want to leave you with just know your purpose. Your purpose is going to be the foundation for everything that drives you, right? So don't be afraid to take time out for yourself to work on you and then help others because remember, it's me, not you. So you can find more information about me, connect with me. I live on LinkedIn, y'all. So I you can find me at PJ PhD, and then you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at PJ underscore PhD. I look forward to connecting with you.
All right, all right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.